This is part 2 of my review of the summer edition of Celestial Toyroom magazine. I'm going to read you a whole article in full. Worlds of Wonder, Why Science Meets Fiction. Exhibition review by Richard Unwin. The Morbius monster is placed next to a cat, none. Giant robot K1 and faithful friend K9 are joined by the Scovox Blitzer for a tin plate tableau of positronic posturing. Classic and modernised warriors stand sentinel side by side. No, these aren't spoilers for the 60th anniversary. They are eclectic arrangements of exhibits in the Doctor Who Worlds of Wonder exhibition, currently on display at Liverpool's World Museum. This is an attraction that differs from previous offerings by tying in the props and monsters of the series to real-world science with educational information and interactivity, so that the items are loosely grouped according to scientific topics, rather than any familiar in-show categorization, resulting in some unusual and unlikely combinations. A section on survival in a vacuum includes a variety of spacesuits seen in episodes from the Satan Pit through to Oxygen, via Silence in the Laboratory and The Impossible Astronaut. And a robot of death, in the cybernetics segment, looks absolutely at home next to its spiritual successor, the Heavenly Host. But to make no mistake, despite the educational element, this is absolutely still a proper, big, full-blooded Doctor Who exhibition. The science does not detract from it in the slightest. It only adds to the experience. The factual content isn't overwhelming, and it is extremely well integrated with the fiction. Three-dimensional models of theoretical wormholes and extra-dimensional space sit adjacent to a vortex manipulator and a teleport bracelet. The gadget robot is the centerpiece of an extraterrestrial exploration display that showcases the waters of Mars star against a panoramic background image of a genuine red planet surface. Selecting various real-world flora and fauna on a giant touch-screen console reveals the Doctor Who creatures that were inspired by true-life organisms. Oh, okay, so that's a sea coconut. Actor and writer Mark Gatiss serves as our guide through these worlds of wonder and pops up on video screens at several points as we journey through the exhibition. There were also contributions from popular scientists, including Sky at Night presenter Dr. Maggie Adarin-Pocock. Everything is kept lively and interesting with plenty of interactivity, whilst visitors are forbidden to touch the levers and switches on the gorgeous Hartnell console, constructed for an adventure in time and space. There are plenty of other buttons to press. A pleasing emphasis is placed upon the environmental concerns, with a whole section dedicated to topics such as pollution, epidemics and eco-disasters. This feels so right and so true to the spirit of Doctor Who. Despite some claims to the contrary, the show has a rich history of exploring such issues, and this is reflected in the exhibition's deep dive into how worries about threats to our environment have been portrayed throughout the series' long life. Doubtless this will be too woke for some, but the thought of our dear old show inspiring the next generation of scientists fighting to save the planet is rather a heartwarming one. In terms of actual props, costumes and monsters, those from a revived series probably outnumber representatives from the classic era, but only just. And older elements and concepts that perhaps haven't survived in physical form are included as much as possible by way of information and illustration. From the other end of the timey-wimey spectrum, this exhibition couldn't be more up to date, featuring as it does a Sea Devil costume from the very latest transmitted episode, as well as several pieces from the preceding Flux storyline. This display never forgets that a lot of fans will mainly be here for the monsters, and drops the educational remit almost completely for a good old-fashioned monster vault about halfway through. There's a spirited attempt to justify it with some maybe there is life on other planets spiel, but really it's just monsters, glorious monsters. Here among the Cybermen and Silence can be found an updated version of an attraction familiar to anyone who visited the Museum of a Moving Image Doctor Who exhibition of the 90s. A half Dalek facing a mirror that you can get inside and wiggle the plunger of simple joy. The space that the exhibits fill is beautifully presented. The winding path through the various themed sections takes one on what feels like a real journey. Illuminated plinths, clever use of mirrors, and projected Gallifreyan script on the floors make this seem like another worldly environment. There's a lot to see, and one could easily end up spending well over an hour investigating every little nook and cranny. There are photo opportunities throughout, including at least 3 versions of a TARDIS exterior, and even that old exhibition stalwart that make yourself sound like a Dalek interactive exhibit with ring modulator. And then at the very end, after you've passed Lady Cassandra and the newly restored face of Bo, there's Little Shop. Hooray, love a little shop, pleasingly packed with exclusive worlds of wonder, branded merchandise. This is a perfect end to a fascinating adventure. Yes, there are jelly babies. Destined to go on tour after it finishes its stint in Liverpool, the display on local connections will presumably evolve as the attraction moves around the country. This will go down in the pantheon of Doctor Who exhibitions as one of the greats, alongside Blackpool, Doc Longleat and the Doctor Who Experience. I think that my favourite tableau here is one featuring the teller from the Time Heist, flanked by a moon spider on one side and a Carled mutant on the other. It's vaguely tied into some science stuff about evolution, but mainly they just go together very nicely. There is a glorious underpinning of factual content to the exhibition, but rather like the programme that inspired it, it also knows very well when to prioritise just looking really cool. So that was an article about the Doctor Who exhibition at Liverpool. I've been to the Doctor Who exhibitions at Llangollen and Blackpool. I used to know the guy that ran the Doctor Who exhibition at Blackpool. He had this conspiracy theories exhibition as well. His name was David H. Boyle. He's a bit of an eccentric character. He was. He's apparently died from a stroke now. But he was a rum lad. Maybe you could call him. Well, you couldn't call him a lad, but he's no longer with us now. He's died from a stroke. But if you're interested in going to see the Doctor Who exhibition at Liverpool, that's the article about it anyway. I'll be back soon with more discussions and reviews with more reviews and discussions on various topics. Bye.